I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
It kind of sucks to be here, but hey there, Duke fans. Episode 608 of the DBR, the Duke Basketball Roundup. I am Jason Evans. I'm here with my buddy Donald Wine. Donald, you still in San Diego?
Still in San Diego. It's daylight saving time everywhere now. So it really sucks because not only did that game happen last night, we didn't get an hour of sleep that we should have gotten to kind of get over it. So we're not running on all cylinders this morning.
Yeah. Look, you can always tell when Duke loses because the DBR podcast at gmail.com inbox does not have as many entries for headlines as we get when the Blue Devils have a win. There are not a lot of headlines. But before we get to that, I'm going to do something a little different, Donald. And I wanted to just open with a couple things I think we should talk about before we start actually recapping the game extensively. Obviously, we're talking about Duke losing to UNC, failing to take a share of the ACC regular season title and all the other jazz. I want to open with this, Donald. Kyle Filipowski tripped Harrison Ingram in the first half. Mm-hmm. He did. I know Flip seemed, he sort of said that he kind of denied it in the postgame. He said he was getting up and his foot slipped. He said he didn't even know Harrison Ingram was back there. Kyle, look, Flip, I love you, buddy. That's just BS. I saw the play happen, and he tripped him, and it's a bad look. And it's not something I want to see from a Duke player. And there is a possibility, I don't know that it's for sure, but there's a possibility the ACC office will look at this and will choose to suspend Kyle Filipowski. I think if they chose to, I don't know if they do half games.
No,
no. Yeah,
it's just one or none, or
one or none.
Obviously.
I mean, it's possible they choose to suspend Kyle Filipowski. It wouldn't be the most surprising thing I've ever heard. Wouldn't be the most undeserved suspension I've ever heard. I don't think that it quite rises to that level, mostly because Harrison Ingram, didn't seem overly bothered by it, and it wasn't like super terrible. But let's be clear. I just wanted to start by saying, Donald, that I believe that Kyle Filipowski did trip Harrison Ingram. I think it's a bad look for Duke. I think because of what happened with Grayson Ingram a few years ago, there's more attention to this kind of thing. When
Grayson Allen.
What did I call it? What did I say?
Grayson Ingram.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Grayson Allen. Yes. Everyone, you knew who I was talking about. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, because of what happened to Grayson Allen, I think that it looks worse for Duke when this kind of thing happens. I'm not saying that's fair, but anyway, do you have any comments or thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was a trip, first of all. The explanation that he gave, he could have said that, and I would have been like, okay, fine, that's an explanation, but we saw what we saw. I think, honestly, and we talked about this years ago with the Grayson Allen incidents, tripping isn't that bad in this grand scheme of basketball, but because it happened so many times in a row, it became something that people think about, right? They think about him as a dirty player. They think about him as all these things because of the fact that he had several tripping incidents in succession. This is hopefully not the start of a trend, right? This is hopefully something it happened. It was stupid. It will never happen again. And I think they understand that the heightened scrutiny that it draws with him wearing a Duke jersey. And so because let's be clear, tripping happens in every game, whether it's an intentional one or a unintended one. But this one was one that clearly looked like it was to stop Harrison Ingram from getting down the court. And you just can't do that I know, hopefully it comes, hopefully he doesn't get suspended for it. Hopefully they kind of say, hey, look, the real punishment was that Duke lost the game, but it's definitely something that needs to just be curtailed, and we shouldn't be talking about it on the show again.
Yeah. Ideally that would be the result of this. And I want to be clear about something, by the way. This kind of thing happens I don't want to say regularly, but it's not like this is a huge outlier in the world of college basketball.
This is like an equivalent of I guess it's not a good equivalent, but in football, there's holding on every play. It's just whether they choose to call it, right?
Yeah.
There's tripping in every basketball game. It's just a matter of how egregious it may be.
Yeah, and whether it gets caught on camera in quite the way that this one did. All right, so let's put that behind us now. Get to the headlines. Again, as I said, we didn't have a lot of them, and they're kind of obvious because I think a lot about this game is pretty darn obvious. Chris Immershine came in with Cormac connects for Carolina, denies Devils comeback in Cameron. Cormac Ryan, probably unquestionably the story of this game. Jared Strauss, slow start dooms Devils. Jared, by the way, also had some analysis of the game that he included, and I would ordinarily, say, "Oh, let's read a little bit of this." But Jared's analysis is identical to everything I was going to say about the game. so
Jared, Jason speaks for you.
Yes, exactly, Jared. As I talk about this contest, you'll hear things that you pointed out again and again. Again, like I said, I don't know that this is a game that requires like a lot of deep, in-depth, crazy stuff. It was pretty obvious. Everything that was happening in this game was very obvious to me. Anthony Sherry. I like this headline. This is good. Transfers again transport the heels past Duke, pointing out Cormac Ryan's a transfer. Harrison Ingram is a transfer. Jalen Withers, it seems just littered with guys who came from elsewhere to help out the heels. And then the last one, oh my God, Donald, you know what's coming, don't you? This is Eric Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bishop, just, chef's kiss. My friend, Eric gave us a limerick. Are you ready, people? Here we go. 2 hands were laid upon Flip, but the haters will dwell on the trip. Ignore all the crying, give a hat tip to Ryan, and pray this defeat is a blip.
I don't think we've gotten a limerick before, but that was great.
That was awesome. That was amazing.
I wish it was in response to a win. Like that's the only negative. I have to give it an A- because of that, because it comes on the heels of a loss. But other than that, it's perfect.
It was great. It was awesome. Let's get to the game. And before we get to the good or the bad, I want to start with something, because I'm not sure this falls in good or bad or where. This is sort of just overall kind of thing. It's neither, I guess it's kind of more bad than good, but it's just the reality. We hate UNC. We desperately want to beat them. They are our bitter rivals. They spent decades cheating in what was most assuredly a racist fashion to get an advantage on the floor and deny African-American athletes a worthwhile education. It's disgusting. UNC, bad, evil. That said, you have to tip your cap to them. They out-hustled and they outworked Duke for the second game in a row. Duke has a roster full of guys who will make NBA money, while Carolina has a lot of guys who will play in the Turkish B League. Without the extra effort and hard work, especially on defense, there's no way North Carolina beats a team like Duke. That's just the reality. But they did, and we need to acknowledge them for it. It shows how much experience matters. They were ready for the intensity and effort of this game, and Duke, I think, just wasn't. I read somewhere that Cormac Ryan is older than like 4 guys who made the NBA All-Star game this year.
Mm-hmm.
They brought a team to the floor that has been there before again and again and again and again. And I'm not saying Duke is super, super young, like in some years, but Carolina was way more experienced, and it showed, especially at the outset. And as part of tipping my cap to them, man, did they hit some tough shots. Ingram and Ryan just buried us with contested, tough angle shots again and again. So to me, that's the story of the game more than anything else. And like I said, I mean, it's not good. It's not really bad. It's just the reality of the situation.
I think we'll talk about some of this in the bad portion, but a lot of the things that we did poorly was a result of UNC executing their game plan very, very well. I thought they played better than us. I thought, as you mentioned, they out-hustled us at several stretches of the game. And that's the difference in these ball games. It doesn't necessarily come down to the McDonald's All-Americans versus the Turkish B League All-Stars, as you put it. But like at the end of the day, you have to execute. You have to score buckets. You have to get defensive stops, and you have to do the little things to win a ball game. UNC was prepared to do anything and everything to win this ball game, and that showed, especially the first 10 minutes of the game. especially in the second half when, we were trying to get back to level. But yeah, you have to tip your hat to them. They played well. They came into Cameron and beat us. And I hate that. I hate that they were able to do that. But again, as you mentioned, that's the reality that we face today.
Yeah. So let's get to the good and the bad, and we'll start with the good. And you're going to notice something in every single one of the things identified as good. Toward the end of me talking about it, there's a but blank. I noticed it's not intentional. It's just a recurring theme. So for example, I'll start with the offense. We had 48 points in the second half. Man, that's a big 48 points. We shot 58% from three in the second half against a team that does a really good job at defending the 3-point line. We hit 39% of our threes in the game. Look, I said one of the keys, there were 2 or 3 stat categories that I said were keys to this game. And one of them was, can Duke hit upper 30s, whereas Carolina usually holds team to lower 30s on 3-pointers? We hit 39% of our threes. Over the final 32 minutes of this game, Donald, we outscored UNC 73-63. But they were up 15 for the first 8 minutes of the game. So we outscored them by 10, but it didn't matter because they were already up 15. So I at least had the offense in the good.
Yeah, I think the second half really, but also even if you mentioned the first half, we were down 15 points seemingly early on in the game. And I like the fight that we had to get back to within, 9 points or 8 points at the half. And then in the second half, we even got to a point very quickly where we were close to being tied, or we were tied, or we were right.
We were down 1. We got the down 1.
Down
we got
1.
Possession of the ball down 1.
Yeah, and it felt like we were able to at least make this a ball game and make it go back and forth the rest of the game. So I will commend us for doing that. And again, that was just the same in Chapel Hill. We had a bad start. We were able to claw our way back. We just didn't have enough gas left in the tank to get over the hump. And every single time it felt like we were getting close, a butt would happen. Something bad would happen. But I will commend the guys. Also, Jason, on defense, we talked a lot about RJ Davis. Was very, very quiet relatively in the first game. Armando Bacot had a career game in the first game. Both of them were kept pretty much at bay for the most of the game. RJ Davis was only 9 points. His average is close to 22. And being able to keep those guys and keep Armando Bacot for the most part off the glass and really imposing his will on offense, I thought we did very well at that. And I'll talk about one of the best plays was Kyle Filipowski with that double block on Armando Bacot with about 3 minutes left. And you thought, again, that was going to be a tide turner, one of those defining moments that signaled the comeback that we were trying to make. But I thought we did really good at keeping those two guys, especially off of the score sheet.
Yeah, no question about it. And hat tip to Flip and Tyrese Proctor, who were the guys who primarily guarded those 2 stars for UNC. And I agree with you, did a really nice job. In fact, I had Flip as my next thing up in the good but 19 points in the second half for Flip. That's a big half of basketball. Took over early in the second half. At one point, it was like Flip had 8 points and UNC had 1. He scored Duke's first 8 points of that second half to get us back in the contest. Was dealing outside and inside at the same time, but did next to nothing in the first half when Carolina went out to a big lead and found himself in foul trouble throughout much of this game, and it clearly impacted his ability to maybe be quite as aggressive on rebounding. I don't know if it affected him on defense a lot. He was still going after block shots, but affected him some. And that foul trouble and the early struggles that Flip had. It feels like Flip's been having first half struggles a lot this season.
Yeah,
he is way better in the second half than the first half. Love to clean that up. That'd be a big one.
It'd be interesting if if it's like a warm-up thing, right? Where he kind of, just like a relief pitcher sometimes needs a few innings to get warmed up before they let loose. And maybe it's like, hey, maybe you need to get some guys to bust him up in the gym like an hour before the game starts so that he enters the game in second half mode, because I want second half mode Flip all the time. Jason, he finished with 23 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and 0 turnovers. if you don't think about that first half, what an incredible stat line that is. What an incredible game that he had. And again, in the second half, he really fueled the response coming out of the locker room, which again, I will commend. We don't come out the locker room very good in a lot of these games. And he basically put the team on his back for the first 5 to 6 minutes of the second half.
Yeah, and look, we talked about in the preview the fact that Carolina lately has been dominating teams to come out of the locker room in the second half. And for Duke to come out and put that on them was quite a surprise, and it's what we needed to get back in this contest and make it as competitive as it was. As I continue my good but, Jared McCain, 19 points, co-team leading, 7 rebounds, did a lot of probing of the defense with his dribble, hunting for good shots, hunting for opportunities. I love how aggressive he's gotten to be, compared to the player he was earlier in the year. But boy, did he get torched by Cormac Ryan. He and Cormac were guarding each other the whole game. Cormac Ryan won that matchup. No question about that.
It is what it is. And again, I mean, Cormac Ryan, he had a career game. It was the last time you heard Cormac Ryan be the story of a game. It's very rare.
Yeah.
And definitely not in a Duke game. So you got to tip your hat to him. But I think, again, Jeremy Kane really fought through a lot of things, right? It didn't seem like he was on early, but again, kind of caught on pretty like towards the end of the first half, hit a couple threes, got us back into at least the momentum. And like you said, he was able to affect good things on the offensive side, even if it wasn't him shooting the ball. And so I appreciate the fact that he was able to do that. Again, on defense, getting a lot of rebounds and stopping UNC after one possession, one shot. And so I think with Jeremy Kane, again, if he's not having a good shooting day, he's going to figure out a way to make something positive out of his time on the floor. It's very rare that you see Jeremy Kane go and you're like, man, he just was ineffective. Whether he was shooting well or whether he's defending well, whatever it is, he's going to figure out a way to become a positive impact on the game. And I thought he was yesterday.
Yeah, as I continue the good but, I get to Tyrese Proctor. I thought Tyrese had some really impressive moments. I've been talking.
I did too.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about how much Tyrese has stepped up his play in the past couple of weeks. He had 14 points in this game. Especially early on, it felt like he was the only thing that we could really do on offense. And you mentioned it earlier, but I just want to highlight it again. I thought he played outstanding. Just really great defense on RJ Davis throughout. I mean, ACC Player of the Year, RJ Davis hasn't officially been named that, but he will be named ACC Player of the Year. As you mentioned, only 9 points, only 4 of 12 shooting from him, only 3 assists from RJ. And that is Tyrese Proctor playing just really, really great defense. By the way, 40 minutes played in this game. Tyrese, since Caleb Foster went down, Tyrese is basically like, we're giving him the ball. We're like, okay, ain't nobody behind you, man. It's all on you from here on out. And Tyrese, I thought, really handled that. And I never seemed tired or anything like that. But he only had 3 assists. And this was a game, we talked about some of the keys to this game, key stats. One of the key stats I highlighted was UNC holds teams to like only 40% assist rate, and Duke needs to be up 50 or higher. And in this game, Duke's assist rate was 38%. And it's just, it felt like we went one-on-one again and again, as opposed to passing the ball and moving the ball around to guys to get open shots. Look, I'm gonna have more on that in the bad, but again, I'm doing this thing. I'm on this theme, and that a lot of that falls on Tyrese. He's the guy who initiates the offense. So if Duke has a poor assist game, if your point guard only has 3 assists, you got to point it out.
I think, like the others, the first half not as good as the second half, and I think together, I thought they played better together in the second half, even if the assists weren't coming. But Tyrese Proctor, I thought, was one of the guys, again, was able to affect through leadership, kind of calm the team down, especially when they were making their runs to kind of say, hey, let's get back, let's get this next basket and figure out a way to stop them on the other end. It didn't work out, but I did appreciate the fact that, like, again, in huddles, he was bringing guys together. On the floor, he was kind of pointing out where guys should be, that sort of thing. Again, those are little details that even in a loss, you can say, hey, you did a good job at doing this, and it's going to help us down the road. Of course, our road is getting shorter because we're now entering the postseason, but those are the details that we need to work on, because those are the details, as we see, can separate you between winning and losing.
My last thing I have in the good, and then I'll let you take it away, is TJ Power. 7 points in 4 minutes for TJ. Calmly hit a 3 and a driving 2 in the final minute. He is clearly in the rotation. And look, we don't know how much this is a function of Caleb Foster and how much it's a function of TJ playing his way there, but really great to see that from him in a big contest, for him to perform like that. And Shire, I think, no hesitation whatsoever going to TJ, but TJ was really the only guy off the bench who gave us much of anything. Yeah, we got some rebounds from Ryan Young. Ryan Young's always on the boards for us. But Sean Stewart, after having so many impactful games lately, Sean Stewart was a non-factor in his 7 minutes of this game. I'm the world's biggest Sean Stewart fan, but I'm going to call it like I see it. My good but is that TJ played good, but the rest of our bench, frankly, certainly didn't give us what Carolina's bench gave. Jalen Withers, Seth Trimble. We did not get the performance from our bench that Carolina got from theirs.
My final good was about TJ Power, and I thought he brought a much needed boost towards the end of the game. And like you said, having 7 points very, very quickly, it felt like. But it wasn't just threes, Jason, right? He got a couple of twos, and I think he get to the line at one point. But
yeah, he got 1 2-pointer. Where he drove. And by the way, drove the basket with saw it lane, drove the basket with confidence, and then he also had a couple free throws. He had 2 out of 3 free throws for him.
So he affected in all the areas on the basketball court on the offensive end, right? Like, he's able to make a three. And I think what some teams were probably catching on to is the fact that he was kind of has a game like me. He stays behind the 3-point line, waits for a shot, and tries to take it. So for him to be able to take the ball and drive to the basket and get 2 points, that is, again, adding an element to his game. That's learning on the job, again, in a frustrating situation, or, in that time, kind of a desperate situation when he's hitting his 3 to try to get us to catch up. But I like the confidence that he's showing in elevating different parts of his game to the next level. And that's going to be very useful for us.
I definitely have read scouting reports on TJ Power that point out that he has a game like Donald Wine.
Yes. It's probably listed. It's probably not, my name's not on there, but people understand.
All right. You got anything else, or are we going to take a quick break here?
Let's take a break.
All right. We will take a quick break. On the other side, we'll delve a little bit more into the bad. We'll also have the play of the game and our player of the week as we look ahead to the ACC tournament. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
All right, Donald, we're back from the break. Time for the bad from this game. And, in fairness, if this bad section isn't as long as it probably should be, it's because I already covered a lot.
Did a lot of butts, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it in the good. But I wanted to start with this. We've talked about the stats that we were looking for in this game. There were 3 stats that I was really looking hard at in this game. Assist percentage, Carolina got the better of us there. 3-point shooting, we got the better of them there. The last one was rebounding. Woo! That did not work out for the Blue Devils. And we have talked extensively about the fact that there is no stat correlated to Duke victories the way rebounding is correlated to Duke victories. And Carolina out-rebounds Duke 39-28. Wow. Flip had 7. That's okay, but that's not like a big number from your big man. I mentioned earlier, Ryan Young worked hard to get 6 rebounds in 19 minutes. Jared McCain grabbed 7. Frankly, no one else. Other than those 3 guys, no one else really helped out. Mark Mitchell had 4. I thought Harrison Ingram continually outworked Mark Mitchell for position around the basket. I don't know how much you want to talk about Mark Mitchell. It was a dreadful game from him. Mark has struggled this past week. Mark wants to forget this week. Let me tell you, man. He only had 3 points in this game. Only attempted 3 shots in this game. On the whole week, just 8 points and 10 rebounds. Mark's in some kind of funk. I don't know what's going on. But he was just playing bad in this game.
Yeah, he had a very off week. It's uncharacteristic of him, and hopefully he gets back on track for the ACC tournament and beyond. But Jason, I think it lends itself to the fact that you mentioned the rebounds. The rebounding stat is not necessarily the one that I look to kind of be the bellwether of what Duke does, because as you mentioned, when we rebound well, it means we're hustling well. We see when we don't hustle,
they go hand in
with
hand.
a rebound, and they go hand in hand. I think the one stat that is strictly tied to how we play and how well we do is the assist percentage. As I mentioned in the preview, we are undefeated when we have an assist percentage rate above 50%. This one you mentioned, 38%, only 10 assists. And it's because we weren't moving the ball around. We are our best Duke basketball when we are moving the ball around to find open looks. And I think, again, credit to UNC, they forced us into taking a lot of bad mid-range shots, contested mid-range shots. And because we were trying to get to the lane, we're trying to get to the rack, and we weren't able to do it. So we were settling for late in the shot clock, fall away mid-range jumpers from 10 to 15 feet right around the free throw line. And of course, we're not great at those. And I know you hate that shot because it's not an effective shot. And it proved that yesterday in the first half, especially. I think when they went out to their 15-point lead, I think we only had 1 3-pointer and 1 shot that was at the rim. Everything else was that mid-range jumper, whether they rolled it or not. That was the key here. And I think that was their game plan, was to make it where, hey, these guys don't like to take these shots because they don't make them. So let's force them to take them. And they did very well at doing that. Yeah,
I had identified Duke on the game. I looked at the shot chart. Duke took 10 shots from right around the free throw line kind of area. Just, either a little inside or a little outside that free throw line extended. We only hit 2 of those 10 shots. Ugh. Carolina, by the way, took 11 shots like that. And ordinarily, if it's the right guy, maybe it's Jeremy. If it's the right guy taking that shot, I'm okay with it. But it's just not the highest percentage shot you can get. Like I said, Carolina took 11 of those shots. They hit 7 of them. So both teams pulled up and took those mid-range jumpers a fair number of times. Duke only hit 2. Carolina hit 7 of those shots, again, from right around that free throw line. And, a lot of the culprit of it was Jeremy Roach, who was just 1 of 8 on 2-point field goals. In fairness to him, when he didn't take that little mid-range jumper, he went to the basket and got blocked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Or just plain missed it because Carolina was contesting it so well. 1 of 8 on 2-point field goals. And Jeremy admitted in the post game, he said it. I'm not surprised, but he said, look, the emotions of playing what might be his last game in Cameron, his senior night game in Cameron in front of the crowd with UNC and the such. He said the emotions got the better of him. He's human. It's not good. It's not what you want to hear. But it's pretty understandable.
And it lends itself to 2 years ago when it was Coach K's last game. We were both in the building, and the emotions from that game, right? Like, it's hard to overcome that. And it's even harder to do it when it's against your hated rival who does not care, right? Like, if we go to UNC on their senior night, actually, our job,
they care a lot.
They care a lot. But like, we go, like last year,
right, they have no sympathy. That's what you mean, right? Yeah.
Well, it's just mean like when we go to, they don't care about your feelings, right? That's what I mean. Is that when we went there last year, you had all the senior night. Leaky Black got honored for the 4th time. Armando Bacot for the 2nd time, right? They honored all those guys. And then Duke said, that's cool. Congratulations to them. Now we're about to punk you. That's the deal. And when it's against UNC, they're going to try and punk you and make it where your last game in Cameron is a living hell. We have to anticipate that. It's unfortunate that the emotions did get the best of them, but it's understandable, as you say. That's part of the game, though. The part of the game is when you're playing a game of this magnitude, the emotions are present, and they have to sort of at the same time not be a part of the game. And so that's where it's unfortunate. And in the fact is, you could tell during the game that he was trying to calm himself down, and it just wasn't quite working for him.
Yeah. As I continue in the bad, look, I already mentioned Sean Stewart earlier, but I just, in fairness, I just want to put things where they belong, categorize them properly. 7 minutes for Sean, which is less than he's played lately. And frankly, the reason he only played 7 minutes is because that athleticism that usually pops just was not popping. He had that one block shot that was a spike. But other than that, Sean didn't even get a shot off in this game. He had 4 fouls. I'm not sure how much longer than 7 minutes he could have played. He tried guarding Armando Bacot. I thought he actually did a pretty decent job on Bacot, and it was important for us to give Flip some minutes where Flip didn't have to guard Bacot because, Flip was in foul trouble as well. Our bigs got in foul trouble this game, just, period, end of story. But I was really hoping that Sean's arrow would continue to point up. I hope this is a one-game blip. I think this is probably a one-game blip for him because we've seen such great things from him lately. But, again, if I'm putting things where they belong, Sean Stewart unfortunately goes in the bad today. First time in a while we've had to say that.
Look, we both have stocks. Stocks don't go up in straight lines. They go up in jagged lines. This is the little dip that happens when the star is rising. And so you have to take that and learn from it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's kind of our season, right? When you look at our season, we go, hey, this is great, but it's not a straight line. We didn't win 24 games in a row. We didn't start out 0-7 and just shoot straight up. We had some blips along the way. This is just one of those blips as you continue to try and move up the ladder. But I think going back to some of the things I saw in the bad, I go back to the first half where that it was so strong for UNC. It was 25-12 after the first 10 minutes. They end up going up 15. And throughout all that, there's a lot of things that I think we didn't adjust to. We didn't adjust to the fact that Cormac Ryan was about to have his game. We did that last time with Harrison Ingram. We did not adjust to the fact that Harrison Ingram was having a career night, that Armando Bacot was having a career night. This time around, we didn't adjust to the fact that Cormac Ryan was hitting just about everything. We didn't have the hustle. We felt like every loose ball went their way. Every ball that was about to be a smooth three-pointer turned into a smooth three-pointer for UNC. There was that one play where we got a great rebound, and then Jeremy Kane gets stripped from behind. I thought he got fouled, but whatever. And it pops right into a UNC player's hand who just calmly shoots a three right in his face.
It was Ryan.
It was Ryan. and so, again, you kind of look up and you're like, what do we do about that? And even in the huddle, you could tell, like, the guys are like, what's the answer here? And they just couldn't have it. I think the one thing that I really hated was Seth Trimble and Jalen Withers were able to hit some crucial buckets for UNC. They had – it wasn't – when you look at the stat sheet –
Dude, what about Elliot Cadeau? Elliot Cadeau hit a double pump, almost 3 points. It's just ridiculous to beat the shot clock. Come on.
To beat the shot clock, it just barely beat the shot clock, right? And that gives them confidence. And they're not going to respond as well to the crazies that everybody going nuts after a play like that. They want to silence everybody. And those guys coming off the bench and hitting crucial buckets is really what helped kill us. Like Cormac Ryan not having an answer for that. Okay, you feel like you're keeping the two of the best guys in the ACC at bay. You're letting the guy get 30 points. But Seth Trimble and Jalen Withers coming off the bench is something that it really kills you because you don't have an answer for that. And I'm interested to see kind of how they adjust for that moving forward. When you do have a guy that goes off that you don't expect, how do you respond to that? We did it, I thought, great on Monday night against NC State when DJ Burns had his career night. We didn't do it last night when Cormac Ryan goes off. It just, the reality of the situation is those are the things that really kill you. And we'll look back at this game just like we look back at some of a lot of the other losses. We go, this is the Cormac Ryan game, and everyone's going to understand exactly what happened.
Yep. Yeah. Look, my last thing I do want to mention in the bad is the clutch moments of this game. With about 17 minutes left, Duke cut this game to 1 point. We'd come all the way from 15 points down, cut it to 1 point. And as I mentioned, we had the ball. Jeremy Roach had the ball and went in the lane and had a really tough layup that really never had any chance. And then Cormac Ryan went back down the floor and got fouled and hit 2 free throws. So from a 1 point game, it went to be a 3 point game. Kyle Filipowski took a 3-pointer on the next possession. It wasn't, there were some threes he took that I really liked. It was not one that I necessarily loved. A couple moments later, Flip missed a free throw. Roach got a layup blocked. And suddenly it was back to being a 7 to 10 point game. It was like a 10-point game again. And it stayed between 7 and 10 for pretty much the rest of the contest. And I was just like, God, like we got so close. If we'd gotten over that hump and taken the lead, I think first of all, Cameron would have been lit. But I feel like, put a little more pressure on them and the whole thing might have turned out differently. And then in the final couple minutes, we had a stretch where like Flip and Roach just couldn't make the plays we need. Jeremy Roach just completely fumbled the ball away at one point. Kyle Filipowski had a couple chances to make big shots, and Bacot played really good defense on him, and he just he missed it. We took bad shots, we missed shots we probably could have made, or we turned the ball over in clutch moments. And like I said, meanwhile Elliot Cadeau is burying almost 3-pointer with 0.2 left on the shot clock. It's just there was just a difference in how each team performed at the really, really big moments of the game.
Yeah. I think down the stretch, it felt like we were desperate for points.
Of course. Yes.
Desperate. Or not, I mean, when I mean not just desperate for points, just desperate for something, anything to go our way. And every single time we had that desperation moment, UNC prevailed. And that's the backbreaker. It again, there's credit to UNC for a lot of it. It's also, we could have done a lot better with execution, but I mean, we didn't turn the ball over that much, but it felt like every single crucial possession ended up with the ball being stripped, right? When you look back at it, it probably wasn't, but that's just how you feel. Every single time that we got so close, TJ Power hits a 3 to cut it to within 3 after Flip has a double block. You then come back and Cadeau hits some random ridiculous shot, and you're just like, oh, man, this is going to be a what could have been game, right? With a lot of things. We haven't talked about Caleb Foster because he didn't play. What would have been if Caleb Foster was available for this game? What could have been if we didn't go out to such a flat start? What could have been if we had made a couple more threes? What could have been if we were a little bit more poised in those clutch moments? That's the shame of this game, is that in the final game of the season, we had a what could have been game, and you don't want to have any more of those the rest of the time, because your season will be done if that happens. And hopefully we learn from that and allow ourselves to be more poised when the time comes down the road, because it will come again.
By the way, I think I don't have the stat in front of me, so I'm probably going to get it wrong in terms of the exact year, but I heard that Cormac Ryan's 6 3-pointers against, he was 6 of 8 on 3-pointers. Cormac Ryan's 6 3-pointers against Duke was the most in a Duke Carolina game by a Carolina player since Hubert Davis in like 90 or 91 or 90, something like that. I mean, like a long time ago. I'm sure Hubert enjoyed seeing Cormac match his previous record. Ugh.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I don't like it either. All right, we got to get to the play of the game. And you already hinted at what yours is. I think it's the same as mine.
Oh, yeah, it's the double block.
Yeah, well, I was extending it because right before the double block, he hit a 3-pointer. A really quick, like a really nice, really quick 3-pointer. And just under 4 minutes left, cut it to 6. And then at the other end, he had the back-to-back blocks on Armando Bacot right at the rim. And that was just like a moment where I thought, oh, it might,
this is it.
Much has gone wrong.
Like, yeah,
this is it. Because I thought first time Bacot went up, I was like, oh, did Flip foul him there? 5th foul, that was going to be all done. But instead, it's a block, then another block. I'm like, yes. But yeah, just didn't happen.
It's an incredible play. It's an incredible play. Like no bones about it. That was the part. But again, I think it was the best play because of the fact that at that time, just like you, I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the catalyst for the moment that's going to push us over the edge and get us, to come back and make this an epic comeback for the ages. And it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Player of the week time, Donald. Who's your choice? Who is the best Blue Devil this week?
It's interesting. There's a lot of different possibilities you can go because I feel like not everybody had the perfect week. I'm going to go at least for consistency purposes with Jeremy Kane. I thought he was good in both games. I thought, again, as I mentioned, I love the fact that this kid allows himself to be a part of the offense in any way he can, whether it's through getting an offensive rebound, whether it's through making a good pass, whether it's making a shot, driving to the basket, making a free throw. He's the guy that, man, I again, this is me being selfish, but I really hope we see him in the sophomore year at Duke University. That's how good he's been this year. I think there's no doubt he's the freshman of the year in the ACC in my mind. Of course, I'm biased because I'm part of the Duke Basketball Roundup, but that doesn't mean I'm not right. And I think at the end of the day, being able to also help us beat NC State with his play and come back and have some really good play, especially in the second half against UNC. He's my player of the week. And again, I think there's a couple of guys that you could probably give it to.
Yeah, I went with someone else, although I think I certainly considered McCain. I went Tyrese Proctor. 25 points this week. Looked to create on offense, both for himself and for others, much more than we saw earlier in the season. Played all 80 minutes. Literally did not sit for a single second of either game. But the real reason I picked Tyrese Proctor was this. He played great D on DJ Horn, and on RJ Davis. DJ and RJ, two of the best offensive players in the ACC, and Tyrese Proctor took both of them out of their game. I thought Tyrese was outstanding. You're talking about guys who will have a decision. You're talking about Jared McCain. Will they come back? Will they not come back? I think McCain and Tyrese have two of the toughest decisions on the Duke team. And man, oh God, it would be really special. It'd be really something.
Hey, Jason, before we get out of here, I did want to note, now that the regular season's over, we have our matchups, at least for the first part of the ACC tournament, which of course is going to be in Washington, D.C. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wait, but before we get to that, because I wasn't quite done with Player of the Week. There's another nominee for Player of the Week.
Okay.
See what you think about this.
So Proctor's not your Player of the Week.
No, he is my Player of the Week, but you're going to hear about someone else who had a pretty good week.
Okay.
Isaiah Evans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Did Isaiah Evans have a week. Duke recruit. Look, everyone. Common Malawach. Cooper Flagg. Don't forget about Isaiah Evans.
Cooper Flagg, by the way, Naismith Player of the Year. Yeah. And Naismith Player of the Year. Just voted on last week. So congrats to him. But yeah, Isaiah Evans. I've been telling people he's going to be a problem.
So here's the problem Isaiah Evans was. The North Carolina State playoffs started. And North Mecklenburg, the team that Isaiah Evans plays for, is the number either number 4 or 5. I forget. I think they're the number 4 seed in the state playoffs. Not the best team, but they're up there. On Saturday, a little more than a week ago, they had their first game of the playoffs. He had 35 points in that game. On Tuesday, he hit 6 3-pointers, scored 21 of his team's 45 points as they won their second round game. At that point, they're into the third round. They're playing the number 1 seed, the defending state champs. A team that everyone says is like top 5 in the country. And Isaiah Evans dropped 48. He dropped 48 points on these boys. His team, North Mecklenburg, is now in the state semifinals. If you haven't done the math, Isaiah Evans scored 104 points in 7 days.
And they only played 32 minutes of basketball. So
yeah, exactly. Wow. Look, we're going to talk about the ACC tournament. We got the NCAA tournament coming up. This current Duke team is a darn good team, even though we just lost to UNC. This is a team that has a chance to cut down nets, no question about it. But it's hard not to get very, very excited about what is heading to Durham next season in Isaiah Evans and Cooper Flagg and Common Malawach and Con Knuppel and Patrick Ngomba. I mean, like, goes on and Darren Harris. Sorry. It goes on and on.
Who again, Darren Harris, Patrick Ngomba. I know Ngomba's been out, but Darren Harris, part of the number 2 team in the country, the only PVI, the only team better than him. Cooper Flagg's Montverde team. Again, must see TV. Whenever
winners.
These guys,
these dudes are winners. Winners. Yeah,
loving that fact. But Jason, real quick, let me talk about the ACC tournament seedings as we do. Again, everything starts on Tuesday, but Duke, of course, will not play until Thursday. Duke is, of course, the 2 seed. They will play at 7 p.m. on Thursday at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. I will say if we go down the seeds, you have, of course, UNC being the 1 seed, 2 Duke, 3 UVA, 4 Pitt. Number 5 is Wake Forest, number 6 Clemson, number 7 Syracuse, and number 8 is Virginia Tech. And then you go down from there. The Tuesday games, of course, my Miami Hurricanes, unfortunately, were the 14 seed. The only team that was worse than them was Louisville, which we kind of expected. But Miami will be playing on that Tuesday. So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to be there all week between Duke and Miami. I got a game on Tuesday, maybe a game on Wednesday. And then, of course, the big games start on Thursday night with Duke playing at 7 p.m. If you are going to be in the area, when we start to preview of the ACC tournament, I will tell people I'll be posted up at that point. I'll kind of have my schedule going back. I do have to work during this, so it's going to be some bouncing back and forth between the arena and my home. But looking forward to seeing everybody in DC for the tournament. It should be a great one, and hopefully, again, we got four more days to kind of get everything together and wait for our opponent. Which, when you're looking at it, could be a Clemson, most likely, who would be facing us. Clemson, BC, or Miami. But go ahead.
So yeah, first would be either the winner of NC State, Louisville, or Syracuse. I think pretty likely Syracuse. They've been playing pretty good lately.
Syracuse, excuse me. Yeah, Syracuse.
Yes. And then if we win that game, we would have either Virginia, Clemson, BC, or Miami. I'm with you. I think probably Clemson. Clemson's tough, but that's an ACC semifinal game. I mean, you know, on Carolina's side of the bracket, they've got Wake, who's going to be desperate, assuming Wake, they'll have either Wake or Pitt.
And both teams will probably
both of those teams will see that game against Carolina as a chance to play their way into the tournament. And before we go, we should mention the job that Jeff Capel has done at Pitt back half of the season. They started 1-5 in the ACC, and it has just been a massive turnaround for the Pitt Panthers. And I mean, Capel should be really proud of what they're currently 21-10, 12-8, 12-8 after starting 1-5. Come on. I mean, that is really impressive by Pitt. Arguably, over the past, month and a half, Pitt has been the best team in the ACC. They've gone 11-3, which is a big record. So, I'm glad to not have Pitt on our side of the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at our draw, again, not going to be an easy stretch, but if you talk about which stretch is the easiest, getting the 2 seed sounds like, at least it feels like, a better path for Duke, because we match up with those teams a little bit better than we do the teams on the top side. Again, I think the teams on the top side are all teams that we lost to during the regular season.
Yeah, you're right. Good
on
point.
The bottom part, there's teams that we had tough games against, but we're able to take care of them. So hopefully we can do the same. As I always say, it is very, very hard to beat a team twice. So we have to learn that we have to beat some of these teams a second time if we're going to win the ACC and get to a nice seed in the NCAA tournament. But again, Washington, D.C., it's going down this week. Come see me.
With that, we are done with the latest episode of the DBR, the Duke Basketball Roundup. For Donald, I am Jason. Here's the Duke Band. They're playing us out, and they're taking us home.